Hey everybody, welcome into the next edition of the Grittiest Take at True Philadelphian Sportscast. We have the great Jamey Baskow joining us tonight from FlyersNittyGritty, who I love working for and writing for. How are you doing this fine evening, Jamey? You got a great lighting outside there. I don't know how you do that.
Everything's going good, man. I'm honored to come on to your program. I believe this is the first time I'm on your show, but you have an established viewership, and so I'm honored to come on and provide what little insight I could give. I've scratched my head, taken off my hat. I've done ole 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 today twice. So because Flyers training camp begins Monday, so yeah, pretty stoked.
Yeah, and some of these teams we also, when we get into this, what this video is about, which is us looking at the first round from the percentage points we think the teams have a chance to upset it. So if we think a team has a 5% chance, whatever, some of these teams we don't want to upset the better team because we don't want to have a Flyers rival have a chance to get the first overall pick. So we'll see when we get to those series how some of us, if we are a little biased towards where we rank the upset rankings. But it's interesting because I'll lead in the first one is one of those series, Pittsburgh and Montreal. Obviously, in the last one I gave, when we did that, I didn't give them the highest percent chance. I gave them a 2.5% chance that the Canadian, like a 2 to 5% chance that the Canadians could upset Pittsburgh because it would have to be Carey Price playing like a Vezina candidate is the way I looked at it. But I don't know what your take would be on how much of a high percent you would give to Canadians to potentially upset Pittsburgh.
I would actually give it about a 35 to a 40% shot. Carey Price could honestly steal a series, especially, what is it, a best of five, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So it's a best of five series. So that, to me, that plays in the hand of, an upset. When you're looking for keys to an upset, it's not a 7-game series. The less games, the better for an upset to possibly happen. Solely, it would definitely, like you said, Jonathan Quick put some crazy numbers in 2012 when the Los Angeles Kings won the Cup. I think he finished something with like a 1.91 GAA or something. That's exactly what Carey Price would have to do against the Pittsburgh Penguins. Unfortunately, Carl Alsner just dropped out. He just opted out of the return to play. I don't know if you're aware of that. He's a defenseman for the Montreal Canadiens. That does not play well into Carey Price's hand there. Alsner is a pretty solid defenseman for the Habs.
Especially a veteran stay-at-home type guy.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. He blocks shots. He's not afraid. We've seen him with the Washington Capitals a lot, so I'm pretty sure you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So he's not a bad defenseman at all. Is he the best defenseman? No, but he's a little, I'd say, around an average to a slightly above average defenseman there. Who could provide, like you said, a stay-at-home, block shots. That's sort of what you need to win.
The other question with Montreal, I wanted to ask you because I don't know if you heard Max Domi. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe he has diabetes. I believe he's one of the players.
He hasn't opted out yet, so to me, that
you think he'll still play then?
Oh, absolutely. When you're talking about Max Domi here. Max Domi is a really good player. He doesn't get enough credit for what he does. So if Montreal's looking to get rid of Max Domi, shoot, Flyers, we'll take him.
But I was just talking about from a health risk for him.
No, I understand. I understand what you're saying, but it's only it could possibly only be 5 games. So I think he's willing to risk the shot. I think he would have been the first one to drop out if that were the case, in my opinion. That's just only my opinion. That's no sources, no nothing. But
no, I just wanted to get your opinion on that because
he could drop out. I mean, but as of right now, he's not, and I don't think he will. But I don't think there's going to be very many players. I know we're up to 6, not including Roman Pollock. You could say 5, but Roman Pollock isn't on the Dallas Stars training camp roster, and he did sign a contract overseas or something. So did he opt out? I mean, we could group it as such. So 6 players aren't playing, now for the return to play. But I wanted to say that I think that the Pittsburgh Penguins, even with Alsner being there, I just think that Pittsburgh Penguins is going to be a buzzsaw. They're going to be a tough out. And they're going to be a tough out because they're getting Jake Gensel back healthy 100%. That team was an older team, and now they're a well-rested team. You're talking about a Chris Letang, Sidney Crosby, Evgeny Malkin. You're talking about Connor Sheary, even players with lots of miles on their tires, and now they're all 100%. You have a goaltender who might have been able to clear his head in Matt Murray, a two-time Cup winner. So, I mean, and you got a Tristan Jarry played out of his mind, this past season. So I just think Pittsburgh Penguins are too much.
I agree. That's why I had it at a 2-5 because I think that was biased towards I don't want to see Montreal upset Pittsburgh. I'll raise it to a 5-10. You sway me a little bit, but that's because I don't want to show off the bias too much. So, I don't want Montreal to beat Pittsburgh.
I think Pittsburgh will win. I think Pittsburgh will win it 3-1.
Yeah,
they could.
Yeah, I would say
Carey Price could steal another game for the Habs. Don't be surprised though if the Habs were to upset them, and that would solely be because Carey Price is a phenomenal goaltender.
Mm-hmm. And then this one is interesting as a 5-12 because we talked about goalies here. I don't think you would look at these goalies as much, but Koskinen and Crawford's stats were actually pretty identical. In 38 games to 40 games, they both had a .917, and they were both around the same goals again. Obviously, Crawford has more goaltending experience in the postseason, but obviously the Oilers have two-headed monsters on their offense. So what's the percentage because of experience it would mainly be? So some of them aren't as skilled as they used to be, talking about Duncan Keith and Seabrook, and even Crawford, who put up good numbers, but he's not what he used to be. What would you give the Blackhawks as a percentage chance to upset Edmonton?
1%.
1%, yeah, because it's in Edmonton.
No,
okay.
Just Edmonton. Edmonton has everything over there. They have a great coach over there. I love Dave Tibbett. He's taking that team to, and I think that's what you need is a really good coach. I think what's going to happen is in this injuries will come to the forefront. It's whatever team is going to stay healthy, but at the end of the day, we are presuming that all teams are 100% by the time the puck drops, for the opening, not the qualifiers, not for the exhibitional games, I should say, on July 28th and 30th. That's where I was getting to. So you're assuming that each team is 100% leaving those exhibition games and starting their qualifying or round robin tournaments. So in the qualifying tournament, Leon Draisaitl is arguably could even be one of the best players on Edmonton, and people don't even realize it. I mean, he is an effective two-way player. Connor McDavid is a phenomenal player. He's one of the best in the world. But the knock.
He's coming off the injury too, but they said he looks amazing. I was watching that Sportsnet video. They said he was working out. Yeah.
If you want to knock McDavid for one thing, it's that he doesn't play the best of defense, but you could tell that he's trying to get better at that in that particular area that's where Draisaitl excels. So, those players complement each other. They're both very
Nugent Hopkins excels on his own end too.
He always excelled, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I just think that he played on an underperforming team, if you want me to be quite frank. It's honestly a darn team. You look at what happened to Taylor Hall. Taylor Hall leaves and becomes a star. So, but that's the way Edmonton was. And I say was before Dave Tibbett got there and now the ship has sailed. AV and Tibbett are two identical coaches. They are both defensive first style minded coaches. And that's what's going to win in the playoffs are those particular coaches. And that's where I'm talking about. Those teams that have the experienced coach behind the bench. Like we just mentioned in the previous series, you have Mike Sullivan back there, Cup winner. He's a Stanley Cup winning coach. You have Dave Tibbett over there, lots of experience. Alain Vigneault for the Philadelphia Flyers, lots of experience. And I just think that Edmonton's going to sweep the Chicago Blackhawks 3-0.
Gotcha. I put that when I did it with Steele, I had mine at a 5-ish% chance because of experience. I gave the Blackhawks around a 5% chance. You have experience. You never know without playoff experience.
That's great.
That's around what I
Absolutely. You never know. I mean, you might get that, the veteran presence there to play over their heads. I just think that, I'm sorry, I'm just a huge Dave Tippett fan, to be honest.
I also like the
I,
Oilers defense.
I wouldn't have minded Dave Tippett with the Philadelphia Flyers before they signed Elaine Vigneault. And that's why I was happy with Elaine Vigneault, because they're both similar style coaches, so.
Yeah, well, Edmonton also has an underrated defense because the guy that's one of their better stay-at-home defensemen, people don't love in Edmonton because of who he was traded for, not because he's bad at hockey or anything. And that's Adam Larson. It's not like Adam Larson's a bad defenseman. It's just because of the trade, he doesn't have as much respect on his name because people go, well, you were traded for Taylor Hall, buddy. I mean, you don't live up to that. But that's not really the most fair take either, because he's played pretty well there to help young guys. Like when Bear came up this year, you got Jones. Obviously, Cliff Bomb's a beast, a potential goat of a player, and then Darnell Nurse. So they have a pretty good defense where Tippett likes playing up from the defense. So that's why I agree with you. They don't have a good chance of getting upset. Plus, they're playing, like Steele said in the last podcast, they know the caveats and how everything bounces and what they can do in their own stadium a little bit too, to try to take a little advantage of that. So that helps out as well when it comes to them. But another fun one for us Flyers fans that I guess we wouldn't mind if this team upset them. I do love their coach, but they wouldn't have a chance of getting the first overall pick. What's the chances you give the Rangers to upset the Hurricanes?
I think the Rangers will win that, anyway. I think that the Rangers have better goaltending than the Carolina Hurricanes. I just think the Rangers are solely a better team than the Carolina Hurricanes, in my opinion. I think if you want to look at teams, I think the Carolina Hurricanes they were falling flat and would have fell flat. I think that the Rangers would have ousted them for the playoffs if this season went to 82 games, in my opinion. Even with the minus addition of Chris Kreider at that particular time, because Chris Kreider broke his foot against the Flyers, during their home and home, games, But I think the Rangers. You're talking about a team that was, I think, the second best team in goals per game. Yeah. They scored at a rate of like 3.5 or something per game. The Rangers know how to put the puck in the net, and you got Artemi Panarin there. And now you have Chris Kreider, who's 100% coming in, and you have a well-rested Henrik Lundqvist. You also have another really good goaltender behind Henrik.
I'm not even sure that's my question. I'm not even 100% certain because of his down year. It's like I'm not 100% certain. I think in the end they'll roll with Pekka, but I'm not 100% they'll roll with Pekka.
Veteran experience for the first. I think for the first game and see where the king is at. It's his. I mean, honestly, he's the king. He's called the king for. I think that if anything could have helped the Rangers, it was that for him to get reset mentally, and it gave him rest. And that's what I'm talking about in terms of the Rangers could be a team that could have an extended playoff run because they got good goaltending and they have a netminder over there in Henrik Lundqvist that knows how to get it done. Plus a young man over there that played off his head. But they also can put the puck in the net and score the best of them. If you want to say one of the weak points it would be at the defensive side of the puck because they're a young defense. So,
and some guys that are more offensively consistent now than defensive.
That's about it. The Rangers may give, the Flyers fits here for years to come. It's going to be a fun division, but I think Carolina doesn't have the goaltending to withstand to beat the New York Rangers in the 5-game series. And actually, if you want me to get quite frank, I'd give the Rangers a 60% shot, and I'd give the Carolina Hurricanes a 40% shot.
Gotcha. No, it was funny what happened in the last podcast with this, because when I was going over it with Steele, Justin Williams has cited, who's obviously the Mecca leader, and also when it comes to the postseason, it doesn't matter how old Justin Williams is, it seems like he just turns into the all else being in the playoffs.
True, but I just don't think that one player can't win them.
No.
I know Dr. Hamilton comes back 100%.
That's the other thing, yeah.
that Dougie Hamilton coming back definitely helps Carolina Hurricanes for sure. I just think that the Rangers are ready to take out some teams, and I think that they were playing well, before the season ended there, and we're coming on strong.
I was going to
And I
say it's the reason I
figured
was
out.
saying it was funny though is I was going to be right where you were at, but my put 30% because Steele had his at almost 50, and then when he found out that Justin Williams, who's basically the leader of the locker room, he went for a bit, and they gave the captaincy over, but he still, when he came back in, was the guy that you're able to know, been there, done that. You're always going to go to him when it comes to playoff stuff. His dropped all the way down to like 18%. So then I moved mine down to 30%. So then I was like, so for now, I'll keep it at a cool.
This season now. So add another year on to Justin Williams. You know what I mean? So this
he
is
did play lesser games though. Yeah, the problem.
And I understand that, but where I'm getting at is that this is a new season. So for instance, Joel Farabee, this is like his sophomore season, and that's why I would peg him in the lineup. Because I just don't think that he's coming out of the lineup next year. So why would he for the playoffs? You know what I mean? And I understand he's only 20 and stuff. I get it, but this is a whole nother season here.
Well, I'm going to move it up 10 to 40%. So you did sway me a bit, but we'll see what happens on the next because you know how much I love goaltending. And this will probably get me killed a little bit in our fans community, but yeah, that's going to be a battle for years in Hart and Shesterkin too. And then you have another Russian and Sorokin coming over for the Islanders soon, who honestly, they probably would have brought in their player pool if they were allowed. So.
If you're looking at each team, look at each team in the Metro. Who doesn't have the goaltending? The Carolina Hurricanes. That is the only team in the Metro that doesn't. I mean, you're looking at the Devils with Blackwood. The Devils are only going to get better. So they're about 2 or 3 years away from seriously contending themselves. And I say seriously contending for the Metropolitan Division. Whereas they could give the Metro some fits. Jack Hughes is going to get older. They have young players in front of them. So then you got, like you said, you got Elvis for the Columbus Blue Jackets, right? Mm-hmm. And then you got the young netminders.
young too. Corpy's not that old.
Yeah. For the Rangers, Sorokin for the Islanders, and then Washington, they lose Holtby, but still have what Samsonov back there, So each team and the Pittsburgh has Matt Murray, so
even Florida found a good backup because you figure Bob struggled this year. All of a sudden they're like, "Hey, Chris, we need you to play a decent amount of games for us." Talking about Chris Dreiger, and then he's like, "Okay, cool." And then had great statistics or more statistics Bob should have had rather than the other way around. But we'll see what happens there. But the reason I brought that up is our next series I wanted to go into was the Isles and Panthers, where I'm interested to see where you put this percentage because obviously I don't think we want the Islanders to lose in the first round because I don't want them to get the first overall pick. I don't know about you. I don't need Alexis Lafreniere on the Islanders anytime soon with Matthew Barzal. So what do you put the percentage of the Panthers upsetting the Islanders?
30%.
30%?
I think the Isles are one of those teams that are going to give teams fits. And if the Flyers met them, that is one team I don't want to meet are the New York Islanders. Out of all the teams, out of all the qualifying round teams, I was asked that question in my mailbag, and the one team I don't want to face is the New York Islanders. For whatever reason, I don't know what the heck it is. They just pounded us this year. They won the season series 3-0. We had one more game, coming back against them. For some reason, whatever reason, I don't know why. But the New York Islanders just give the Flyers fits, here as of late. I don't know why. Barry Trotz is a very good coach over there.
He's amazing.
He's really taking that team to another level in terms of losing players, losing Jonathan Tavares, no problem. What's he do? They almost won. They almost made the cup last year. So it's crazy. What a coach can do, and I just think Barry Trotz is going to do the same thing.
Exactly. Yeah, he's a remarkable coach, and that's why it might surprise you how low I gave the Panthers a chance to upset. I only gave them because I love Quimville, but Bob has to really come back and step up because he
And
played
he will. Bob
like an
will clear his head. I just
and
think
their defense has to step up. I must say that because Anton Strawman,
very good player. He's a phenomenal player. Barkov will get his goals. Trust me, he will put points up. But at the end of the day, I just think the Isles are going to be too much, and I see the Isles winning that series 3-1.
Yeah, that's why I only gave the Panthers a 5% chance because I didn't like what I saw from them in the regular season. They were very inconsistent. Their scoring came more out of guys you didn't expect to give as much scoring in Ajari and Conley than it did out of their like monster players that you expected to get it from. And Quimville even talked about that in one of his interviews. So that's a little bit of a concern for me as well as Matheson and Stroman, who are defensemen that have been in the league for a couple of years, are coming off of down years. So
yeah.
I think the Islanders definitely have a good chance here. I also think the Islanders are hurt. One of the teams hurt. Not that they need them because they have Tomas Greiss and Varlamov. It would be ridiculous if they had them. But I think they 100% would have signed him and potentially brought him over if you were allowed to bring people into the playoff. When it came to Sorokin, I was even reading some stuff about that because of how good that kid could be. Plus, they have Gibson as their third string goalie. They don't have the deepest netminder. So, but that's not here nor there. That was just an interesting fact for people if they were allowed to bring people into the playoffs.
Right.
But anyway, we'll move on to the Predators and Coyotes, who have one of my favorite goalies of the Predators. The Coyotes have one of my new favorite goalies, but the Predators have one of my favorite goalies for a long time in Pekka. The guy just knows how to play. He's coming off of a down year himself. So that's what makes them very interesting to see if they go with Soros or Pekka off the gate with the veteran or UC. But when it comes to them, do you give the Predators a chance to be upset by the Coyotes, or do you think that the Predators are going to take that series pretty good? What are your percentages there?
Honestly, I'm split down the middle with this. I'm a 50-50 on this. This is one of those series that I think could go either way. It depends on, like you just said, who's going to have the better goaltending and who performs more special team wise is going to come down to it for me.
Yeah, because they don't 5-on-5.
What's that?
They don't score 5-on-5 at all.
Right,
really.
that's what I mean. I just think the Coyotes are a fast team, and I just think that the Predators have some holes. I don't think they're going to be ready. I honestly see the Coyotes winning this series 3-2. I like Rick Tocchet behind the bench. I think he did well for the young Coyotes team this year. I think that the Coyotes will win that series 3-2.
Yeah, I really love Rick Tocchet. Mine, I feel with their team, they underperformed. They did play better when Hines came in because for whatever reason, similarly to like he did here, Lavi just kind of fizzled out into the sunset in the end. And another guy came in and similarly to here helped the team do well when he immediately came in, but Hines got hired as the head coach, not an interim. So I like what I saw there. If Pekka can step up, I love Darcy Kemper, though. That's the tough decision. But the question is, he's coming back. Pekka Rinne wasn't injured. He just was struggling. So I didn't have them have much of a chance to upset. I guess I'll move it up to like a 25% chance, but that's still the most just because I love, like, Antirano's a good goalie too, but I do think they need Darcy to play like the beast he can play or Ronta to play like the best he could play still because Nashville has guys that I trust to potentially on offense step up more and get going all of a sudden and just snap it on in the playoff. Because Keller is a youngster that's been struggling a bit, so I would love to see him get going in the playoffs, especially because he's probably going to be on a candidate for Team USA since we're going back to the Olympics soon. But it's not as much as more of an if for me than some of the guys on the Pred. So I'll move that up to a 25% chance. It's from like a 10% chance in the last one, but that's because I think I got swayed by what Steele said too much and then looked into. I really do love Darcy Kemper as a young developing goalie, and they have a good platoon. That's going to come down to special teams, like you said, and I believe Nashville in the end might do better with some of their guys on the special teams because even for some whatever reason, nobody scores as much. And it's not because of Rick Tocchet because he runs a good system. It's just whenever anyone goes to the desert, it's like, I scored 25 goals on average. Now I score 15. It's like, Like, you're just like looking at the guy like, okay, how
Yeah.
come your goals average went down to 50? Like, it's not like his overall stats do bad. It's just like it's one of those inexplicable things, which is kind of like when a Panthers player leaves the Panthers that was good. Sometimes they struggle elsewhere right away. It's one of those things you're like, I don't know what. Like, it's just one of those things. But that's why I give it to the Preds and Pekka's and experience.
I respect that.
Yeah, but this is an interesting one. Steele and I could really not pick that easy between this one because you got one, a goalie in Markstrom that's coming into his contract year, so he's going to be playing for his money as well as wanting to compete for that cup. And then you have the Wild, who, for a 10th seed, are a very, very pretty solid roster for being ranked at that seed. So, where would you give the chances of the Wild upsetting the Canucks?
Well, Bareshi just opted out for the Vancouver Canucks. So that's one, or Barish. Excuse me, I probably mispronounced his name.
Yeah, I think it's Sven, if I might be wrong on it, but if I remember from NHL Network, I think it's Sven Baertschi.
I just think
Yeah.
there's a very good shot that the Wild upset the Vancouver Canucks because Vancouver's young, and it's nothing to do with them, but I think that there's a fracture somewhere in their locker room. I read an article the other day that Brock Broser, now I don't know if this is true, or Boser, he requested a trade. Whether that's true or not, I don't know, but I did read an article on that. I believe it was yesterday, I think I did. So I don't know if there's a fracture in that locker room or not. And that came from not just any source. It came from it was a reputable site that wrote that particular article. So like with that question comes to my mind. Is there a fracture in that locker room? So yes, I think that the Wild will upset the Vancouver Canucks in 3-2. I think that the Minnesota Wild have a lot of veteran experience over there. You got Ryan Suter, you got a Zach Parise. They have a solid netminder over there. I think that they could, upset. I think Vancouver played well. They got Elias Peterson. Of course, he's a phenomenal player, phenomenal talent. And but
they also have two goalies.
Vancouver's also young. This is their first playoff, with all these young players. I just think that the Minnesota Wild are a more veteran team, and I think that they will come out with the W.
Yeah, what's going to be interesting, Steele and I kind of both put them around 50-50. He put his at like 49.99% because he wanted to be like that, and I'll put it at 50%. I put mine at an even 48, so we're kind of at a 50-50 split. My biggest question with them was more, I think they're going to want to bank off of Dubnyk for experience. Dubnyk also is going to have to bounce back because he struggled a little bit this year as well. So he's someone that I look to have to step up and everything. But they, of course, have Kakkonen, and then Stalock was able to play well, but this is the postseason, so we'll see what happens there. That's what I need to kind of see a little bit of what Dubnyk's able to do in the first game, if he looks like the normal Devin Dubnyk, or if he still kind of looks off. And then what Stalock's able to do in the playoffs, because he obviously doesn't have the most overabundance of playoff experience. And then Kakkonen obviously has none. So
Right.
that's the main thing that would lead me closer to 50-50 with them, because obviously Jacob Markstrom played amazing. And like I said, when you're playing coming into a contract year and now you're coming back, the dude's getting paid $3-something now. How he paid this year is not worth $3-something. It's worth way more than that. If he helps them get deep into the playoffs, well, then you're really looking at a pretty good contract, because he's also the potential best goalie hitting the market, because he had good stats this year. Holtby's numbers were down. So that's a very good sign. That's why I think I will keep mine close to 50-50. What would you give, since you gave the Wild? Is yours like closer to like 60 for the Wild, or what's yours for?
Mine split down the middle at 50-50. That series could go either way. I'm just taking the Wild because they're a little more veteran, the more veteran team. And I wanted to apologize. I'm on low battery right now, so I had to get my chargers. That's what I was doing. So I know, like, I switched backgrounds and stuff. I just want to let people know like I'm not a nut, for what the heck is that dude doing or whatever. But yeah, see, that's the kind of wacky and crazy stuff that I do. I guess I'm a magician.
No, that's perfectly fine. No, I figured you would probably
I think I would leave that as a 50-50 because that series could go either way for me. But I'm just choosing the Wild because I think that I'm going to go with the more veteran team in this particular situation.
Yeah. Well, now we get to the tough series to pick because none of them are really considered much of upset. Since it's 8 and 9, you don't really consider either of those two much of an upset. One, depending how you argue it, you could, since their goaltender basically carried them on their back. But we'll start with that one. The Flames and Jets. How much of a chance do you think Paul Maurice's Jets team has of upsetting the Calgary Flames? And my question mark with the Jets is obviously their depth on defense. So
I think that the Jets will win that. I think that they will beat the Calgary Flames. I think the Flames are going to have a short-lived playoffs, and I think Travis Hamonic, the loss of Travis Hamonic is a big one.
Yeah, that really
does. He's a good player for the Calgary Flames. That's not no small player over there saying, "Oh, okay, whatever." No player opting out is good. Because every team has a role. Like Curtis Gabriel told us in the podcast the other day, in the NHL, they have the NHL is filled with role players. Even on the first line, you look at it, what are they? The role. Everybody has a role on the top line. The second line, same thing. Everybody has a role. Third line, they have a role. Fourth line, everybody has a role. So when you think taking out Travis Hamonic, somebody has to come in and fill his role that you may not have needed, before him opting out. He is a very good player. That is a big loss for the Calgary Flames, and I think it's a little too much for them to withstand. I think that the Jets goaltending will prevail in this one, and I honestly believe that the Jets could win 3-1.
Gotcha. That is I love how good Connor Hellebuyck is now. David Rich, I can't say that he can't play either because he's a good goaltender in himself. He's just still middle tier. That's a great goalie that you can win with because you save money with the type of goalie he is, and you have a good defense, so you have a good system to win with him. Where Connor Hellebuyck's a guy that has a chance to be a all-star elite goalie in this league for an extended clip of time, like he's already shown. My biggest thing with them is even losing Hamonic. I also been trying to figure out because he was on long-term IR when he injured his knee. I don't know where the heck Valimaki's at, their youngster, with recovery, because if he's able to come back, that's someone that has skill that could step in to the postseason for you. But otherwise, you have Hannafin, Gustafson, Giordano, Brody. Obviously, Forbort depends on how much physical play you're able to play in this postseason, what they let you do, because he tries to pound you more into the boards. Normally, that's a good defenseman to have for the playoffs, but we'll see this year. And then Anderson, even with the loss of Hamonic, I would still argue their defense might be deeper than the Jets because if you're a casual fan and I go up to anybody that just watches hockey, the only people they could probably name on the Jets defense from was probably honestly Josh Morrissey because I don't think many people know Neil Pionk. But Neil Pionk, other people could probably also name. Where beyond that, it's kind of like people are pulling at strings and they're like, yeah, this guy might be, no, he got traded. Oh, no, he didn't play this year. Because some people would probably say Dustin Byfuglien. And you'd be like, oh, no, he just decided to stop playing hockey for whatever reason. So he's not playing there. And then Pullman had to step up. Kulikov is kind of a journeyman at this point. I think Hellebuyck can steal it for them. I think if they win, though, it would be 3-2. I don't think they're going to win it by a large margin because adding Dylan DeMello helps, but he's not a be-all, end-all defenseman either. So it's going to be close, but what's your percentage at with that then? Above 50-50 or?
Man, that's tough. 55-45.
55. Okay, so you only give the you give the Flames only a 45% chance of beating the Jets.
Yeah.
So the Jets have a 55% chance of upset. Okay, cool. I would give them I had it at 35, so I'll just leave it at that because I need to see what they can do in the first game. Maybe I'll raise it when we do a podcast once the playoffs start. But Hellbuck's been their main cog of success, and in the playoffs, that doesn't always stay that a goalie can just keep standing on your head. I think he'll have to do exactly similar to what some guys like the King have done in the past in the playoffs. And so I think, or like Fleury did for Vegas, like just completely go off in the postseason and that entire calendar year for you, like he did. He'll have to continue to do that. So that I'll keep it at a 35 for that. But that moves us into our final 8 and 9 seed matchup, which is going to be interesting because now you got Toronto playing on their home ice. Otherwise, I don't know how much Keefe to torch. Now, obviously, people have to know Sheldon Keefe ain't a bad coach either. It's just John Tortorella is a known name. He's done a decent job. Toronto, he also had to take over for a sticky situation, to put it mildly. So that he handled that pretty well. And Steele made a good point. He actually kind of might even more benefit from this because now he really gets to implement his own, like really come back in and say, okay, this is what I saw from this year. Like you said, it's kind of a second season. Now he can kind of implement his own stuff really thoroughly and be like, okay, this is what I saw made us inconsistent because they were one of the most inconsistent winners division like that actually played well this year. That they're a team that I would say definitely has a chance to beat Columbus due to the fact now that they can literally screw with them if they feel like it, if they know how stuff angles off of their boards and stuff, if they're winning a game and play well. My question with them is more, will their defense step up? But they have played pretty well this year. They just don't have people that everyone knows. But Toronto, I mean, obviously Toronto has Jake Muzzin, who's a tank. But they have other people that play really well as well. And you have Anderson, who's a beast of a goalie. I just think they're going to end up, I think it helps that it's in Toronto, knowing their own stadium, and also comfortability of being in the area you're normally in. Even though you're in a bubble, you're still in the area you're normally in, so you kind of know what's up. You're not out of all sorts. I think that benefits Toronto.
Yeah, when you look at it, you're thinking, can Columbus actually pull off, an upset here? I honestly believe that Columbus is a better team than Toronto Maple Leafs. I think Columbus will win, and I think it's because of Elvis, and I think Elvis will stand on his head and do well. If Toronto wins, it's solely because of Frederik Andersen over there, and because he is a good goaltender. But I just think that there's something going on. There's something more than just the coach with the Toronto Maple Leafs. Can't put my finger on it. The only thing that I could say is that they have players maybe that are just want to be, for stats purposes. I'm not sure. I have no direct proof, but I don't know. I just don't think. I think there's something going on with the Toronto Maple Leafs somewhere within that locker room. Again, this is no sources, no nothing. It's just my personal belief. There is no reason in the world why they have all that talent over there but can't put it together. I'm sorry, that something has to be going on, something that is not known to the eye. And I haven't
Babcock helped
around the Flyers locker room, so I can't speak on that. But I just think that's what I look at, and I understand where you're coming from, that, the new head coach will be able to have time to have a new training camp. This is his training camp, where Alain Vigneault came in training camp. But it takes time to learn a coach's system. Was that enough time to learn a coach's system? Is this year's training camp enough time to learn a coach's system? You saw the Flyers go 2-1 in their first 3 games under Alain Vigneault, with playing in 3,600 miles or something like that in their first 3 games, right? But then you saw they finished at 500 at the end of the first month of the season, at the end of October, right? So my thing is that the same thing, if the same thing were to happen to Toronto, you're looking at them being ousted in the playoffs. I think that Torts gets the better, makes his players, they believe in him. That is clear.
Oh, yeah.
That is a big day. I mean, players came out in defense saying that he should win the Jack Adams Trophy.
You had Tyler Ennis come up and play. Not Tyler Ennis.
I mean,
was it Tyler? It was some. No, Nathan Gerby.
He had everybody.
Yeah, Nathan Gerby come up and play well, not Tyler Ennis.
If you asked a common fan, I bet you a lot of people couldn't name more than 5 players on the Columbus Blue Jackets if you just asked them. Because they lost everybody. I mean, they didn't just lose.
Kind of the Oakland Athletics of hockey.
Like they lost team. They lost Artemi Panarin, right? Those are two prominent players right there. Then they were going back and forth with Zach Werenski all offseason and stuff like that, trying to keep him. They lost Bob, a 2-time Vezina Trophy, goaltender, and look where they're at. They made the playoffs outright as an ace seed. So, my thing is I think Columbus wins this series, and I think it goes to 5. I think they win 3-2, and I will say that 5th game, I think they win 4-3.
Gotcha. I was gonna say the biggest thing with Toronto too that I made the point was Steele is they tried to bring in Tyson. They had Tyson Barrie on the final year of his deal as a veteran with Jake Muzzin. Jake Muzzin played good as a veteran, mixed in with the youngsters of Dermott, obviously Riley, and then Sandin's brother Rasmus. So the thing there is you had 1 veteran play well, where the Flyers had 2. That's a big difference, especially because he's coming into his contract year. Barrie knows he had a down year. He's probably, like I said, going to be pretty ticked off and motivated to really kick it in this playoff. That's what makes a big difference to me, too. If you have 2 of your veterans kind of leading by example on the ice instead of just 1, that makes a huge difference for me in the postseason as well, where Muzzin was kind of the guy that led them this year, and Tyson Barrie kind of struggled a bit. So I think a lot weighs on how good he can step up too, which is not looked at as much probably by everybody.
Right.
Because you got 2 veterans. But I put them at, when we voted on that, I put them at a 25 to 30% chance of getting upset because they're in Toronto, and I just feel the time off might be best for them too, because like you said, something's weird with that organization. Maybe getting this mental break would be best for them because they have a heck of a roster, and this will be able, because if they're able to really hit it, that'll be a very fun series to watch, especially if Frederik Andersen's able to really hit it, because he played well this year, but he didn't play like his skill level.
All-Star game.
Yeah, because he fizzled. After that, he kind of took a step, because now his goals against was go. Yeah, he got hurt, and then his goals against went up before that. So there's question marks there, but he's a hell of a goalie too. It's going to be a interesting series. Obviously, Toronto can't go deep when it comes to goaltenders, though. You're not gonna rely on Campbell.
There's 2 teams to be afraid of, in my opinion. Out of all the qualifying rounds, you're going to have Pittsburgh, of course, but my 2 sleepers are the Islanders and the New York Rangers. I'm sorry, the Rangers, man. There's something about that. There's something about that team that they started to really click, and now they're going to have a healthy Chris Kreider. That's a team to me to watch.
Oh yeah. Yeah, Kreider. I mean, the fact that Dave Quinn was able to keep those guys going when everybody, I think, looked at that injury and was like, that might be the icing on the, they're having a good run this year, but that might be the be-all, end-all. And it didn't happen. They kept playing great. He kept Strome playing great. Ryan Strome had the best year of his career with, actually, since he came over there, he's had the best play of his career, because when he came over last year, he played good with the Rangers, and then this first full season with them, he's played very well. So that's helping him, obviously, with his money as he's going into a contract year. So I'm sure he appreciates that. But they're a team that's very scary with their double goaltending. I mean, you got one of the best coming up. I agree. I think they're a team that can surprise. But what percentage did you give the Blue Jackets? Just so I can write that in there as the final thing.
60-40.
60. Okay. Cool. And then again, Jamie, thank you so much for joining us tonight for this look into the play-in round from a different perspective of upsets. We really appreciate it. And if you had anything to say going out, I'll shoot it over to you right now.
Yeah, thanks a lot for having me on. This is going to be a fun playoffs. There's going to be a lot of upsets, and I think the team that wins, this particular, wins that Hoist Lord Stanley Cup is the team that's able to stay the healthiest. And I know we say that every year, but now more than ever, being that this is a bubble and whatnot. So I think that whomever gets the hottest and rides that hot goaltending hand will prevail in the end. And that's why I say that this year is a good shot for the Philadelphia Flyers, because you're having those teams. I think that if Carter Hart gets hot and gets on his game, he's going to be tough to beat. And the same thing can be said about these veteran goaltenders like Henrik Lundqvist. If he finds his game and gets on his game, he's a tough goaltender to beat. And you're looking at Matt Murray. Matt Murray's done it before. He got hot at the right time and won him a cup. So like these are some factors that play in, and it's going to be interesting. It's going to be fun, but I think the Flyers will have an extended playoff run, folks.
I agree. I think the big thing, like I was making the point with the Leafs, we had two veteran defensemen that came in and led by example this year in Justin Braun and Niskanen, that mixed in great with our younger core of defense, which that goes a long way, like I said, rather than just having one guy in either Niski or Braun have stepped up. And that's a big help to our defensive core because, like we said, AV likes working from the defense up. So I agree with you. I think our goaltending is going to step up. I think this layoff might actually be very beneficial for our goaltending as well, because Elliott played good on the road and made big saves, but when you examine his inner numbers, obviously his overall inner statistics weren't fantastic, so he might even step up and play even better coming back from rest, because he played well, but like his overall inner statistics, not his like win-loss, weren't the prettiest. It's just he always stepped up for us in the biggest moments. So if he can even play better than he did, that's a difference maker too, because you're probably going to see both goalies, at least I would think, play some, and obviously the exhibition. And then you might see Elliott play in the round robin. I wouldn't be shocked. We'll see what happens. Maybe. Yeah. So, but yeah, I think that's a good thing for him as well. Being able to, as an older goaltender, get some layoff. He had a solid year, wins loss wise, numbers wise. Not as good, but he made the perfect tandem just because he stepped up big on the road. So
he stepped up when Carter Hart got hurt.
Yeah, and he stepped up when Carter Hart got hurt big time, which has kind of been the story of that's like what Elliott's done his entire career. Whenever he's been on a team and a goaltender's got hurt, it's like, okay, I got you guys. It's kind of like the Nick Foles of goaltending.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, your starter's injured. Okay, well, I got you. I'll get you there. But yeah, that's why he also works perfect. But we'll talk about that in another podcast about the goaltenders. But thank you so much for joining. This has been the grittiest take from True Philadelphian Sportscast on a look into the round of the playoff. For Jamey Baskow, I'm Joe Boric. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Peace out.